If you're on the hunt for actionable insights on escaping the corporate grind, embracing entrepreneurship, and building financial freedom, then you've found your guide. Welcome to the Deep Dive with Drake, where the success stories of real entrepreneurs unfold. Join host Drake Abshire as he delves into creating a multifaceted entrepreneurial career, inspired by his impactful Southern heritage. The stage is set. Let's embark on this journey with Drake.
All right. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of the Deep Dive with Drake. I'm so thrilled to have today with us someone who has been very inspiring to me. I'm going to have a conversation with Walter Gonzalez. He is a seasoned real estate broker. He's even moved into a leadership position, which has been amazing recently to help other real estate brokers. That's how good he is. And he has a decade of experience, not only in just self-employment, but over 9 years in law enforcement. So we know he's seen a thing or two. Walter's unique career path, I think, has experiences that offer some really incredible insights that I think you guys would really, really enjoy, both about real estate and personal development. So here we go. Walter, thank you so much for being with me today.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself, just so everybody has a little background, where you're from, how did you land here, all of the jazz.
Sure. So, Walter Speedy Gonzalez, I'm 42 years old, which is really tough to say out loud. I was born and raised in New Orleans. So, NOLA through and through. And I've lived in Slidell now for about 22 years. I met my wife. She lived out here in Slidell. I was looking to move out of New Orleans. And, so I met her and we've been together, we've been together longer than we've been apart. So that's pretty wild in and of itself. We have three beautiful daughters, 21, 19, and 13, which is also crazy to say out loud. But no, man, just, NOLA kid, love New Orleans and the market that I grew up in. And coincidentally, I did a lot of, did AC work when I got out of high school and actually worked. It's so crazy to think back. I hate to go off course already, but when I was doing AC work fresh out of high school, I did a lot of new construction projects and Old Metairie. I did the Jacks Brewery and French Quarter. So before I even got into real estate, I had my hands all over properties doing AC work. So anyway, another little fun fact.
Okay, nice. And so now you've moved into leadership position as a broker. How has that transition been for you?
It's been pretty easy, honestly, aside from the usual stress of just taking on new positions and new roles with any company. It's really easy for me because I learned a lot about leadership when I was in my 20s, and I know we're going to get there. But so New Orleans, AC worked for 4 years when I got out of high school, and around 21 years old, so when I got an amazing opportunity to go out the NASA facility in New Orleans. I totally, I had zero security background, no law enforcement background, no any of the stuff that I needed. So it was very entry level for me at 21 years old. And I 100% got in that door because my father-in-law worked at the NASA facility and he was one of the head safety guys. He knew the head of security. He knew they were hiring. And I went in for the interview, got the job, and I'd say about 3 or 4 months of training before you can actually get out and start doing stuff at NASA. And that's where so the leadership that I gained was out there 100%, because by the time I was 25, I became sergeant over the fire department and security side. And by the time I was 29, I became a federal police officer, lieutenant over second shift command with 60 officers roughly under me or in my care. And that's where I learned everything about leadership. So once you have the basic idea of what good leadership is, it's really easy to translate to pretty much any field once you have a true understanding of that. So I always jokingly say all the time, dude, if I started entry level at Subway, I'd be running multiple locations in less than a year, just because I understand, leadership and how people work. So anyway.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, so I mean, those things are so significantly different that you made this career shift from, law enforcement and these other types of jobs to real estate. So what were your biggest fears and your doubts that you had with this transition? And then how did you go about really addressing those things?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's law enforcement, then go into sales, none of that makes any sense. So there's an important part in that story where everything changed for me. So 29 years old, I was lieutenant. I'd kind of maxed out. There was only two two positions above me at the NASA facility. The next one up was investigator, which I had zero interest in investigating crimes out at the NASA facility or trying to track down government property that's missing. And then there was chief over the whole security operation. And I could have been waiting there for years for that spot to even open up. And when it does open up, who's to say it's coming to me when it's that time? So I already knew I was unhappy or not totally fulfilled in that role. So right around that time, I've told the story before, but it's pivotal. I watched a movie called The Secret. I don't know if you've ever seen The Secret or heard of it.
I've read
It was
the book.
on Netflix. Yeah, it was on Netflix, and I watched it, and something about it just totally blew me away. And I was like, look, what do I have to lose? Like, I'm, not wildly happy where I'm at. So I started envisioning a different life for myself. So I would be sitting in headquarters, literally like it's freezing cold in headquarters because we have like a ton of servers that run all of our security systems, our cameras. So they keep it super cold in there. But I had a bulletproof vest on under my uniform shirt. So underneath here, moist, like wet, sweating, but cold here. Totally miserable. Like I can't really properly explain that dichotomy of what that feels like. And I would be sitting in there just envisioning myself in like nice business attire. Like I always wanted to dress up. I always wanted suits, ties. Like that was always my idea of like business and success. So I started picturing myself with a better life. Like what's the worst that could happen, right? About 2 weeks later, somebody actually indirectly hits me up through my father-in-law and says, hey, do you know anybody who's interested in making extra money selling products? Now, here's what's interesting. The old Speedy, before I watched that, I would have been like, absolutely not. Like, no, zero chance. But I caught myself. I was like, you just watched this movie. You've been envisioning this different life for yourself, and this opportunity comes your way. And I was like, oh, as much as I don't want to, I feel like I have to say yes to this. And I did. It turned out to be Amway. I didn't know much about it before I started it, but I got into it. What was really interesting, though, is I found a couple of things that I liked. I really loved the energy drinks. I loved the vitamins. So the next thing you know, all my officers and headquarters are all on monthly subscriptions. All the dispatchers, like everybody that I work with is on monthly subscriptions. I'm hitting all these new, what they called like IBO milestones, quick start bonuses. I was getting quick start bonuses every month. And 4 months later, I'm up on stage at a hotel convention center in New Orleans in front of a room with like maybe 100, 150 IBOs, like our little, like regional conferences. I was up on stage telling my story and how I did what these people have been doing for years. And I was like, oh man, I had no idea. Like if I would have never taken this path, I would not have realized I'm good at sales at all. And it turns out all you need to do to be good at sales is know your product, believe in it, be trustworthy, be reliable, and be somebody that can actually get the job done for whoever that person is. So as soon as I realized I was good at sales, I was talking to my buddy Tommy. I was like, hey man, you need to do this Amway thing I'm doing. I'm making like an extra $3,000 to $4,000 a month. And he's like, man, honestly, I don't even have the bandwidth for that. He just started selling health and life insurance. He's like, man, I just made 6 figures last year selling health and life insurance. Light bulb. I'm not happy at NASA. I just realized I can sell, and this dude just made 6 figures selling health and life insurance. Most terrifying decision I could have ever possibly made, because nothing about my background would have led to full-time, like self-employed sales, like nothing. Really, it was just like, it's tough to describe, man. It was just this internal feeling that I knew I was not going to be fulfilled or happy at NASA. I didn't want to go NASA. It was kind of cush. Like we were a potential terrorist target. That's the only reason we had to have federal arrest authority. But nothing ever happened out there. We were just like an insurance policy in case something happened. So wildly unfulfilling for various reasons. And sales opportunity, health insurance, health and life insurance. I got my health and life insurance license in less than 5 days. Just because I did the same thing with my real estate exam, like 10 days from the time I took the online course to the license in my hand. So I moved pretty quick when I want to do something. And man, it was terrifying. It was honestly terrifying making that leap. But I had my family to help me out. They believed in me, and it was tough start, man. But I got it done and learned a great deal, obviously, getting into the health and life insurance side before I got into real estate. That really did help me out, because the health and life insurance sales calls, the leads were hostile. Like I was getting shared leads, so they were super cheap. Only downside to that is you got about 8 to 10 other insurance companies calling that person all in the first 5 minutes. So I learned a lot about handling aggressive phone calls right out the gate. Um, so yeah, man, I watched The Secret, uh, what, 16 years ago now. And that's 100% of the reason why I'm in this chair right now. And I'd probably still be at NASA, honestly, or doing something similar to that if I'd not watched that movie. But furthermore, I actually put it into practice and took action when an opportunity came my way.
Yeah, absolutely. I do believe in The Secret. I laugh every single time people bring it up because I learned about The Secret way back in the day when Oprah was on TV. That long, like that, that concept has been around that long, but
Right.
it was on her like books that you read. She had like a book club, and I remember my mom would watch that show when I was home, and I watched it with her, and she talked about this book, and it got me intrigued by it. So I started looking into it, saw the movie that you saw and everything, and ever since then, it's like, yeah, I've understood the concept, and it works. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
But what do you, circling back to, with the law enforcement, do you think that prepared you for any of the challenges that you've experienced in real estate? Did it give you any kind of special skills or you think a edge over other people?
It did, 10,000%, because it's so only the management part specifically, and I guess the law enforcement side too, because you have to learn how to deal with different personality types. You have to learn to deal with everybody. You have to learn how this person reacts if you say this, or get a read off of people based on how they behave. So yes, I mean, that's 100% applicable to sales and everything, agent development, training agents. Like you get to size people up pretty quick. And if you really know what you're looking for. So yeah, 1,000%. If I could do everything all over again, honestly, I would not start off in real estate. When I was in my 20s, I would have gone the same route just because of what I learned out at NASA. And you don't realize what's interesting is you don't realize you're learning this stuff at the time. You're just kind of going through it. And then you look back, you're like, oh crap, like all this stuff that I went through, which I thought at the time I thought that was like wasted time. When I got into sales, immediately I was like, man, I wasted 9 years out at NASA. I really did feel like I wasted time. But the more I got into the so at the health and life insurance gig, I anything I do, it's like it's going to sound so braggy to talk about or say out loud, but anything I do, like I go all in. If I'm interested, I'm passionate about it, I go all in. So I became the area leader or sales regional leader for my insurance company, and opened up or kept the Baton Rouge office open. And 100% what I learned from NASA is how to deal with people, how to deal with different personality types, and what to do. Just getting a read off of people and that's how you can really understand how to help somebody is if you can understand their personality type and how they learn or how they respond to certain stimuli, it gives you a definite advantage for sure.
Absolutely. Okay. So challenges, right? We all face them, difficulties.
Yes.
You would have faced, in your career, serious challenges in law enforcement, serious challenges in real estate, all these different things. Was there any in particular that you feel like were aha moments for you, or you had to come up with new strategies of how to approach things because of that?
Yes. So this is where I lean on myself, man. It's so I was 100% I speak in percentages a lot. I guess it's the real estate. But 100%, it's the main challenge that I faced was myself. With my background, I know we didn't really get into this yet, but as far back as I can remember, I've struggled with depression and anxiety. It's really a miracle that I've achieved all of the stuff I have in my life, because it was, just really kind of is daunting. Like I can recall being 12 years old, something not going my way, and I legit like went out and laid in the street in the dark, like out in New Orleans East. Somebody could have came and ran me over, dude. I was just, to be 12 years old and really not care if something like that happened. It's so bizarre to look back. So like when I say depression, I mean like not the crazy bipolar, like in the shower, balled up with hot water running on me, but it's definitely the ups and downs. It was technically diagnosed as mild bipolar depression, because it was not the super highs or super lows. It's just highs and lows, and it would seem to come in cycles. I would say three to 4 months of like ramping up, and in 3 to 4 months not so great. And dude, I had to really figure myself out pretty bad, because if you don't I'll put it to you like this: for anybody out there that struggles with it, if you don't get to the root of what is causing these problems and what where this stuff's coming from, it will present itself in all kind of different ways. It will present itself in the form of depression, anxiety, and then you try to deal with the depression and anxiety, right? How do you do that? You take the edge off, you have a few drinks, you think of all the usual outlets for stress and anxiety. So over the years, I would do that, and obviously, as you know, being here in Louisiana, like it's part of the culture, man. Like growing up in New Orleans East specifically, I went to the French Quarter as a kid, like most people go to the park because there was nothing else to do, and for $1.50, me and my buddies could go ride to the French Quarter. So just this party environment constantly, like it's acceptable to walk outside with a beer at 7 in the morning, and everything's a party. We always look for an excuse to party, and it's just such a part of our culture that I came up in that all on top of the fact that on my mom's side of the family specifically has a habit of both depression and alcoholism. So that was by far my biggest struggle was coming up through the ranks and learning all this stuff about myself, leading other people, but still having my own challenges that I had to deal with. And it's safe to say, Drake, that I didn't get this really like 100% ironed out till like 3 years ago is when I really got myself figured out. So I was, even though able to make all these milestones and get all these promotions, still like a good part of myself or the development was 100% me and
Yeah.
getting myself figured out.
Yeah. Well, you're not alone in a lot of those things. I've been very honest, I think, on social media and different avenues about, depression, anxiety experiences as well. Alcohol is a very common way that I think a lot of people, try to treat it themselves. And it's a struggle. It can really be a struggle at times. But we all have resilience, obviously, because we're excelling in our careers and we're getting by. It's the silent disease, right, or the silent killer that people don't know about. But how would you say you maintain a positive attitude, or how that resilient mindset that we've built has helped you through those tough times?
Oh, it's been paramount, and it's 100%. I'm going to stop talking in percentages now. It's it's first of all recognizing the problem. There's a lot of people that just don't realize that it's a problem. And I would classify as an alcohol or any sort of problem as if it presents problems in your day to day life. Are you able to show up to events? Are you able to be on time to places? Do you have to reschedule events? Is whatever you're going through negatively impacting your life? And even if it's a slight variation, that in and of itself is a problem. Identifying the problem and then having the gall to go do something about it and really like be honest with yourself. Because man, I can look back to times. I'll tell you my moment, okay? And I've told this story before, but it's really I think it's powerful because I was 39 years old, about to turn 40, and relatively successful managing broker. My partner and I started a company, Second Line Realty, ran that. And I was obviously, the ebbs and flows, the roller coaster of real estate every once in a while, especially if you're not doing what you're supposed to do on a daily basis and letting alcohol run your life. I was relatively successful, but I fell behind on my bills like a month or two. And then I had 3 closings. It was great. I had I would say, to give you an exact number, maybe 20 to 25 grand in my bank account that I just got. And on the same day, my electricity got shut off and my car got repossessed within an hour of each other. That was my wake up moment because I had plenty of money to take care of these past due bills. I was just living in my own dream world, dude, and not even terribly, okay? And that's the worst part about it. It wasn't like, oh my God, Dad's in the backyard passed out again. It's like I was operating a normal life for the most part. It's just there was things that were just slipping through the cracks and things I couldn't quite grasp control over. And, it was myself. It was myself. So yeah, it's so wild to look back at all that stuff now and talk about it because it's so distant, even though it's so close. So it's pretty bizarre. But good to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you here.
Yeah, man.
You think there's any specific practices or any philosophies that you've kind of repeated to yourself, or that you kind of almost use as a mantra to keep going?
Yes. So it is 100%. I said percentages again. Good Lord. It is
And the
It's
funny thing is, I don't think I would have noticed it, but now, like saying it, we're
there
gonna be
you go.
like, "Wow, he really does use these
Yeah,
weird
this guy is
percentages. What's
heavy
wrong with
on
him?"
percentages. Um, it's the old verbiage, "You are what you eat." It's far more complicated than that. You are what you eat. You are what you watch. You are what you listen to. You are what you read. So as soon as you get a handle on that, that was the catalyst for me really being more resilient. Is I was so obsessed with figuring myself out. It was really more out of desperation. So the stuff that I talk about now on social media, when I share a lot of my experiences and the stuff I go through, and I started like walking talks, I started a few years ago. And it was selfishly, I started that stuff for me to catalog my journey. It was right after Instagram announced that they were archiving stories like indefinitely. You could always go back and watch them. So I started cataloging that stuff for myself. And so, dude, to answer your question, I have to manage myself like I'm a business. I have to wake up at 5:30. I have to walk from 6 to 7. I have to drink my water, read my books. I have to work out at least twice a day. And that's just to get all the, kind of running out of your system, especially if you're prone to anxiety or you're being stuck in your own thoughts. It's about keeping yourself busy. It's about managing yourself, but in a disciplined fashion and not letting your brain run away from you. It's about controlling yourself, putting yourself to task, and not letting how you feel dictate what you do. Now it's easier said than done, right? It's taken me years to iron that out, but here we are. So that's what it takes. So you have to really be mindful of everything that you consume and what do you do in your downtime. What time are you going to sleep? Like everything matters. Everything matters.
Yeah, I agree. There's a book I started reading recently, and it's called The Slight Edge. I don't know if you've read it
I
before.
have, yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting how all those little small habits, start to equate to bigger things. But it's learning to even just do those small little things to make the big changes. It's cool.
yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny in that book how that guy's. You remember when he's explaining two different people, but he was the same person.
Hmm.
It's like the same as me. It's like if I was to explain the person I was and the person I am today, and say, like, oh, these both of these people are the same person. Yeah, it's pretty bizarre.
What's a major lesson you've learned on your journey, or that you think has had the most significant impact on you personally and professionally?
It would be ironing myself out, my self will, my determination that was slowly built over time. And I'll say this to anybody who'll listen: it is not an overnight thing. It takes a long time. If you feel like you're really a mess or you really need to get yourself together, it's going to take slow, consistent action. And my wife, she had a good analogy for it. It's pixels, right? Like this iPad that I'm looking at you on. It's not one screen. It is a bunch, thousands of pixels. And anything you do on a daily basis, anything you put in more consistent action, or if you win more than you lose throughout the week, all that stuff over time builds the big picture in which you look at. So everything you do, you need to look at like pixelated, and just stay consistent and stay, I always say win more days than you lose. You have a 7-day work week or a 7-day week. I say if you win four of those days, that's a 4-3 record. That gets you maybe a wild card, 5-2 playoffs, 6-7. Definitely a front runner, 7 out of 7. That's what I usually try to go for. Doing everything I'm supposed to do 7 days a week, which over time, like I said, it didn't start off that way. Matter of fact, I can actually attribute a lot of my success to the 75 Hard program. I know you've probably heard a lot of people talk about that. I talk about it all the time because it really was it's the most impactful thing I've ever done in my life. It was advertised. So this is why I was so obsessed with it. Mindset, right? We read books on mindset. We read books on mental toughness. I read all of them. Gorilla Mindset, Growth Mindset, Winning by Tim Grover. What is it? Relentless? Like, I read all of it. And where I found that they all lack is like, man, this all sounds good in principle, but what do I do? Like, how do I get this? I get the book, but what do I do? And when Andy Frisella launched the program as advertised, he says, this is the instruction manual to get what you're looking for out of all these mindset books. If you can't figure out the context of the mindset books and figure it out yourself, here's a structured program you can do that will get it done. And so I first started it years ago, and I was in hindsight, I was trying to use this program to get sober because I couldn't go for more than like 7 to 10 days without having a drink. So when I say like bad, like it wasn't that bad. Like when I was in my 20s and 30s, I can recall like buying a 12 pack of Corona. If there was like 4 or 5 left over in the fridge from the Saints game, they would sit in my fridge until the following Friday or Saturday. So I didn't always have this problem. It escalated, I would say, when I got into my mid 30s. My drinking really got out of control. And that's when, around this time, this program came out. And I would get on the program, 7, 10 days, I would blow it. 4th of July, something always popped up. There's always a reason to go out and party and always a reason to go out and do something. And Drake, I'm not kidding. It's so crazy to look back. I would say, and I'm not even joking, 30 to 40 failed attempts on 75 hard because I couldn't stop drinking and I couldn't stop eating, because food was another thing for me too. That was a way to get dopamine or whatever. It's so yeah. I'd gotten over 300 and I was 318 pounds at my heaviest, and I'm down to like 250 right now, just to give you context. But yeah, I was trying to use that program to get sober, and I just couldn't get myself figured out, man. And it was when my car got repossessed and my electricity got shut off. Less than 2 days after that, I went into AA. Because I had to go get it off my chest, man. I had to go do something. And for anybody who will listen, if you're struggling, that program will work if you work it. Now, there's a caveat here. There's a lot of people that get addicted to AA and they go like all day, every day. I didn't want to be that person. So as soon as I got the work done, and when I say work, it's work, man. You have to like write down a list of all the stuff that got you to this point. And it's a really powerful inventory process where you break down not only what your struggles are, but why. Why do I feel this way? And doing all that work, it's like ripping the roots out. Because if you just want to stop drinking and you don't want to do the work, you're just cutting it down to the ground. You have to really get in there and do the work to figure out why you're can't control yourself, or why you lose your grip. So I know it's a very long way of answering that question, but 75 hard. So when I got sober, okay, I knew it was over. Like once I got sobriety figured out, it was just a matter of time. You might as well have just given me whatever medal or trophy there was, because that was the only thing that held me back. And once I got to the end of that, it changed everything about my entire life. And so to answer your question, like resilience and like how do you get all that stuff? That's how you get it. You don't have to do it for 75 days in a row or do other crazy stuff I'm doing. The basic ingredients are forcing yourself to do stuff you don't want to do on a daily basis, regardless of if you feel like doing it. That's in your best interest. You do that every day. Guess what happens over time? You start to get a little bit proud of yourself. You look in the mirror. Hey, look, you did good today. Like all that stuff over time is what builds self-esteem, self-confidence, and everything that you're looking for. So, yeah, I know it's a long way of answering that question, but that's the meat and potatoes of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, okay, we got you back on track. You are feeling better. You're doing better. You have all these great habits, but the future is ever changing, right? We see trends in the real estate market changing. Careers can change. Your position has changed, right? You went from real estate agent to broker to now leading training other brokers. What excites you the most? I would say, or I guess I could ask about your life and your career right now.
What excites me so it's untapped potential, man. It's once you really get into the self-development game, okay, and you really go all in, you realize there's no ceiling. Like you think you're at 110%, but if you put yourself through some sort of 75 hard program or this, or you can always get more. Now, I'm not talking about super egotistical, over the top, like over aggressive pride in yourself. But if you keep doing the stuff that you're doing on a daily basis and keep winning and helping other people, it keeps leveling up. Like, so it's every day it's progression, every day. So that's what keeps me excited and motivated, knowing that your fullest potential is never like the finish line's always moving. There's no, because that's the dangerous part about setting goals, right? And you set a goal, you hit it, and then what? There's, then there's the slump afterwards of hitting that goal. So there's no goal. You just, there's the finish line is never attainable. It's always, it's always growing, always learning.
What do you think have been, well, and I'm not just speaking specifically about real estate, but as a leader, what do you think have been the most essential qualities that have been so effective for you as a leader?
You can never forget where you came from. You can never forget. So that's what really helped me out at NASA. When I became sergeant, I never forgot that I was an officer. I never forgot that I was that person that I'm now telling to do things. When I was lieutenant, I never forgot that I was a sergeant. I never forgot that I was an officer. And same thing with broker. I never forgot. I'm a realtor. I'm a realtor just like you are, just like every other realtor. I have a broker license and I can manage agents under me, but I'm a realtor. So far too often, I think brokers get this ivory tower mentality. Like they're so busy and they have so much going on and they're so important. They just, they'll get to you when they can get to you. And for me, it's the polar opposite. I look at it like I have one job, and that's to be there for the agents and to be responsive and be all over it. So, that's the key, is never forgetting where you came from. That's how you're able to lead people. Because if you pounding on your chest and reminding people you're in charge, or I'm this or I'm that, it sounds gross for me to even say it out loud, because it's not necessary. If you're really a leader, you don't have to say you're a leader. You just you walk the walk, you talk the talk, and you let everybody else see what you're doing or not doing. And the proof is in the pudding. So that's how you lead. That's how you be an effective leader. You never forget that you were that person you're now leading, and you lead by example. And this is the tough question a lot of leaders have to answer for themselves. Would you follow you? That's a tough one. And years back, I couldn't say I would honestly, if you knew everything about all of my shenanigans and all my drinking problems and all this stuff, I was still leading. But if everybody knew everything about me, I don't think it would be as powerful as I am today. So that's the second part of it. Are you currently doing the things on a daily basis? When the camera's not on, when nobody's watching you, in those moments, with whatever you're doing, would you follow you? And when you can honestly answer that question, yeah, I would. That's when you got it. That's when you're on to something.
Nice.
But that's what I strive for.
What would you say is the legacy that you want to leave behind with your career?
Oh man, it's less legacy, and I guess legacy is cool, but it's at the end of the day, I just want to help people get through the stuff that I went through faster than I went through it. And that's the only reason I share. That's the only reason I'm so transparent about everything that I've struggled with over the years, is an effort to help other people, like to be the person I needed years ago. And it could, as an argument to be made, that I didn't really seek the help that I should have sought either, but the legacy I want to leave, man, is just, if you have something of value to share with somebody, or something along your journey that you learned, I feel like you should share it. So that's why I'm transparent about everything I've been through, what I'm going through, and the things that I've done, is just to help other people. So I was at church a few weeks back. The pastor was delivering a message, and he was just talking about what your purpose is, like what God's purpose is for your life, for your universe. If you don't, it all depends on what your faith is. But what is your purpose for your life? Like if money were no object at all, what would you do? And before the pastor could even finish that sentence, I said, help people, help other people. So that's the legacy I want to leave, is just, and showing my kids, man, I'm about to get choked up here, but showing my kids. So my kids got to see the bad side of everything, the drinking too much and shutting down and letting my depression and anxiety take the best of me. But they also got to see Dad tie up his boots and get to work and get his life back together. And so that's what I want my legacy to be, to show, like, no matter what you've been through or have dealt with or are currently going through, you can get through it, man. You can. I know it's cliche. It's very cliche to say, and I want to acknowledge that right out the gate. But it's true. Like, everybody, we don't give ourselves enough credit. I think every human being on this planet who has survived their worst day you're relentless. You just don't realize it. We go through things, and we get hurt, and we get struggled, and we have resentment, and we forget that we're powerful. We forget that we're actually relentless just by the fact that you and I got up, got showered, and on this interview right now, despite whatever happened yesterday. That in and of itself is proof that we're relentless, that we carry on, that no matter what, we keep going, and we keep doing the thing. So even if you're not like progressing in your life, if you're still showing up, if you're still doing all the stuff you're supposed to do, even if you're like halfway into it, halfway out, you're relentless. You just don't give yourself enough credit for it, and we forget that.
Yeah.
In moments of weakness, we forget how powerful we are.
Yeah. That's beautiful. All of that. Talking about your career, I think the law enforcement is always just fascinating. You probably may not know this, but I had a history. I was a dog trainer with my dad, and so I worked with law enforcement a
I
lot.
love
So
it.
I have a lot of respect for law enforcement and
Right.
everything that they do, and the bit that I was involved in, the stories that they would have. So, do you have any amusing stories, or just any kind of time in law enforcement that you think was a standout for you? I'd love to hear it.
Yes. So my key attribute for being law enforcement at NASA was quite often we would have, what's the polite way to say this? Mentally unstable people show up at the NASA facility because one guy, he had like a fish dude, he had like blueprints. He had like a thing he pulled out. He had like all these designs and graphics for a rocket idea, and he needed to talk to an astronaut like now.
Oh no.
So yeah, you'd be surprised how many people roll up to a NASA facility that are somewhat unstable, either looking for alien activity or wanting to talk to astronauts. Aside from that, it was so cool to work out it there. Like honestly, I don't think I would have had the same experience if I was just like NOPD or a local street police officer, because I got to see so many cool things at the NASA facility. Like, so the external fuel tank is what the Challenger shuttle and all those shuttle missions used to. The big orange fuel tank is what we built out there, and yeah, it was just that was quite an experience in and of itself, just being at a NASA facility, and I got to meet astronauts, and they have all the cool stuff, the moon rocks and all the stuff you could take a look at. So yeah, that was the coolest part, I think, is just being a part of the NASA missions and helping them get the tanks out. So that was the coolest part. And the astronaut thing is pretty cool, especially the crazy people that would show up wanting to talk to astronauts. And need to
Yeah.
get their design ideas to people like right now, because the world's in danger. So that was the funnest part.
Yeah. So last but not least, it's a question that I like to ask every guest just for the sake of, we like going deep.
Sure.
Moment of vulnerability. What would you say is your biggest fear, not only professionally, but because fears really can drive us to do some crazy things, right?
Yeah.
It could stop us from doing the things that are most important. So what would you say is your biggest fear? And then, how have you been able to get past that?
Oh, my biggest fear is not succeeding, not doing the things that I want to do, and it's less about monetary stuff and more about a promise that I made to myself with my upbringing. So look, I grew up with plenty of love. Always had shelter, always had food, but we couldn't do things like our idea of vacationing was legit, like tent camping in Florida. So when I took on the sales role, the challenges, the depression, the alcoholism, I finally feel like I got my stuff ironed out 3 years ago. So now it's really making a hard run to give my family some financial security. So biggest fear would be falling short of that. Would be, and it's so sad, dude. When I go to like McDonald's and I see like a 65-year-old guy mopping, that's my fear. Is is not is not doing what I have to do to keep myself out of that situation. How do I stop that? Is, man, I learned years back when I first got like really deep into myself and self development, that fear, you have to operate with it. Like there's no avoiding it, because it's always there. You could try. Like I tried to get rid of my fear and anxiety and all that stuff. And my best analogy I have for that is if you're, really stressed, really anxious, depressed, and you're drinking or doing whatever it is to avoid that situation doesn't go away. It's in the other room doing push-ups, waiting for you to be done because it's not going anywhere. So fear is always going to be there. It's operating with that fear and making friends with it. Making friends with it, it's more like your homie. It's like, hey, look, I see you there, but I mean, I'm going to be doing this anyway. And that's what happened when I took the position that I took. I was walking away from a salary when I took this job, and I was like, man, it doesn't matter. I'm doing it, regardless of if I'm going to get help or if doesn't matter. I'm going. So it's about understanding, recognizing, and realizing that fear is a part of daily life. It just is. Fear of uncertainty, fear of what if things don't go this way? What if things, fear of success. A lot of people have fear of success. It's about making friends with it and just operating anyway. So it's just overly simplistic, but it really is that simple.
Awesome. Love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Well,
Yeah,
so turning it to a lighthearted side, just so everyone can get to know you a little bit better, I'm going to do some rapid fire questions for you.
Love it.
And I want you to just shout whatever comes first to your mind that you think about, and it'll give us a little bit more insight into you. So,
sure.
All right, here we go. So, what is your favorite city that you've visited?
Oh, I can't pick New Orleans, right?
No, come on. Needs to be somewhere fun, exotic. I don't know, anywhere in the U.S.
Colorado. I can't name a specific city because I've been to like 4 different places. But if I had to, well, I guess I could name one. Winter Park, Colorado. We went there during quarantine. So it was not the winter months. We went during the summer months, and where we stayed was like 12,000, 13,000 feet elevation. But we had the most insane view of the sunset every evening over the mountain range that was behind us. Also, you don't realize being that secluded and out in the middle of nowhere, dude, the shooting stars are like in the sky like all the time, like a lot. And being a city boy, like I had no idea. You go out there and you're like, oh, shooting stars are just all over the place constantly. We just can't see them because we're 6 feet above sea level and there's light pollution everywhere. So Florida, not Florida, sorry, Colorado. Colorado is absolutely gorgeous, man. Florida's cool too, but Colorado is where it's at.
When I said city and you said Colorado, I was like, man, this percentage guy is really not getting his states and geography correct.
I've been to 4 different cities in Colorado every time I went, so I can't pinpoint it, but yeah, Colorado is my favorite destination.
Most expensive real estate deal you've ever closed?
Ooh, not much, believe it or not, like $750K. It's like 714, 20, like, I don't know, 20 something $1,000 check.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. Best month, 40K. That was
what?
Best month, 40K month.
Okay.
That was pretty bizarre.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, look, I know there's mega producers and all that stuff that watch us. They're like, oh, I'll do that in a Tuesday. But for me, it was nice. It was good.
Yeah.
Especially in our market. What my average price points that year was, I did the math, was like 197 was my average sales price. So you drop me in New York or Los Angeles, obviously,
no comparison.
Much better numbers, but anyway.
Morning or evening person?
Morning.
One food you cannot live without?
Bro, you're killing me.
Just one.
Oh, eggs. Love eggs.
Wow, that's a surprising one. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, that's a big part of my diet. Steak and eggs. So if I had to pick 2, steak and eggs, I could eat that. My wife jokingly says that she's like, you're a dog. You can eat like the same thing over and over. I really could eat steak and eggs every morning. So, and be totally fine with that. So that's
okay. Awesome. Okay, so let's do a little final thoughts. I mean, do you have any last little piece of advice or any little takeaway that you want to share with the listeners?
Yes, I do. Thank you for asking. I genuinely do. It's so when I got to, and I'm not even done, but where I'm at in this stage of my professional development, it was so crazy, and I know we've spoke personally about this, but I want to share this with the audience because when you're going through it, okay, when you're in a certain situation or learning whatever job or whatever role you're going through, I swear you can never really be sure how that's going to benefit you later. What I mean by that is everything when I got this opportunity to lead the brokers and be a part of helping this corporation grow, um, it was so bizarre to look back. And I know I've referenced this before, but my 9 years at NASA, my 4 or 5 years selling health and life insurance and being a sales manager there, then rolling that experience into real estate. So when I was doing the sales leader or regional sales leader gig for health and life insurance, I was doing weekly sales appointments. I'm sorry, weekly sales trainings, weekly sales meetings. So when I got into real estate, once I learned, it took me like 2 years to learn the contracts, negotiations, and get like really fluid with that. At my third brokerage I went to, I started implementing sales meetings. I was like, hey, look, I would love to run these sales meetings and sales trainings. So I started doing all that, helping the brokerage out. Then got to manage my own brokerage with my partner. And, I had just setbacks. Like the first person I was doing the sales meeting, sales trainings for, long story, but we decided to part ways. Same with my partner from my brokerage I was managing. I look back at that like 4 years that we put into that business that we didn't see eye to eye in terms of like what I should be getting and what he was getting. And so, dude, I looked back at honestly the past, 42 years old, so the past 20 years, I was like, man, look at this, all that time that I wasted, that I could have done so much more. I could have worked harder. I could have sold more. I could have saved more money, but I was helping all these other agents and helping train. And if I was selfish with my time and just focused on being a top producer, I could have done a lot more. And right around that time is when this opportunity came my way. And when I got it, I was able to look back at 21-year-old Speedy and think, oh my God, for the past 20 years, everything I've done collectively has prepared me to be able to take this role on I have now. So if I would have said no to being sergeant when I was 25, if I would have said no to lieutenant at 29, if I would have never watched The Secret and got into sales, if all of those little things did not happen, it would not have prepared me for this moment. So what I would have thought a year or two ago was 20 years of just maybe not wasted time, but time could have been better spent, was exactly what was most impressive on my resume to the people I presented to get the job that I have. So my point in saying all that is extract the lessons from everything that you go through, because you never know what is going to present, what life is going to present you 5 or 10 years from now. And being able to have that experience of just, whatever it is you're going through, it's valuable. So I guess the main takeaway is pay attention, be mindful of everything that you're going through, learn the lessons, extract the lessons, because you never know if it's going to prepare you for something down the road.
Awesome. Love it. All right.
Yeah.
So Speedy, if people want to connect with you
Yes.
or learn more about your work, what is the best way that they can find you?
It's Walter Gonzalez on Instagram, Facebook, Walter Speedy Gonzalez. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm blue check verified on Instagram and Facebook, and LinkedIn there too. So pretty easy to find. Bald headed. I got tattoos from the law enforcement days, which when I got all this work done, I was law enforcement. I did not count on dealing with the general public. And what's really funny is when I first got into real estate, I would dress up like all the time. I would dress up in like suits, ties, and vest. And because I was hiding my tattoos, I didn't know what I was doing. And I was just, trying to, guess hide my personality. And what was funny was I was so dressed up that more often than not, a lot of my clients were uncomfortable. I would show up to showings in like a tie, suspenders, dressed to the nines, and my clients would apologize for being underdressed. And I was like, oh, I need to back this down a little bit. So anyway, I don't know where I was going with that, but it's, I don't know, got nothing.
It's your overall plan. You're good. Thank you so much. Hey, look, thank you for joining us. We really, really appreciate you so much for being with us today.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of The Deep Dive. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please, I'd be honored if you would subscribe to my channel. And then also, please, if you would love to leave us a review, you can leave us a review anywhere you listen to this podcast. We would love to hear from you and how much you're enjoying the show. Share it with a friend. Of course, stay tuned for more deep dives into inspiring careers, personal journeys that we're discovering. And until next time, keep exploring and keep growing.
Thank you for diving into the world of entrepreneurial grit, personal growth, and financial mastery. Drake is here to arm you with the necessary toolkit to cultivate, nurture, and realize your groundbreaking ideas. Keep journeying with us by tuning in to subsequent episodes at deepdivewithdrake.com. The path to a flourishing entrepreneurial life is within reach if you commandeer your professional voyage and steadfastly chase your ambitions. See you on the next highly engaging episode. Until next time.